and thank you for joining us for the Ask Andrew show today, Canada's first Facebook live streaming family law question and answer show. My name is Andrew Feldstein, and I'm the managing partner here at Feldstein Family Law Group, and I practice exclusively family law in the province of Ontario, along with my 9 associate lawyers at various locations in the GTA. Today's guest is Toronto boutique matchmaker and dating expert Shannon Tebb. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
It's our pleasure. And today we thought we would do something a little different because usually we've been talking more, I would call it along the lines of black letter family law issues. And today we're doing something that's different, talking about dating after divorce. And we're looking at some of your insights. And I'm also looking to add some points because how you go about dating and the things you do in dating post-divorce can also impact on your family law proceeding because there's things you can and can't do that can hurt or help you. So first, Shannon, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a matchmaker and a dating coach.
So I was inspired by the movie Hitch, and I started as a dating consultant, and then I branched into matchmaking after building an amazing singles network of clients. I work as a boutique matchmaker in downtown Toronto, and I'm also a dating coach helping singles become 100% date ready.
So that's an interesting thing you say, become 100% date ready. What does that mean?
So that's kind of qualifying them, making sure that they're good in every aspect of their life. They're feeling good in their personal relationships, outside of dating. They're physically at their best. They're happy in their work environment. All of those things, you know, little tweaks here and there that can make you 100% date ready. So when I meet with a client, I'm able to see if they're ready to move into matchmaking or maybe they need a little bit of coaching first.
Now, when you say 100% happy in their life, I'm thinking back on my 23 years as a family law lawyer and having been divorced, that after you split up with someone, you're certainly not in a good place.
No.
Would you say those people are ready to date? Or
no, I honestly believe that you do need to take a dating detox or a love detox from your last relationship. And that can take anywhere from 6 months to even a year. It depends how long your serious long-term relationship was. So you really want to take time to not date and just personally assess your own lifestyle and get into a positive mindset.
I find it interesting you say that because intellectually, I think that's probably true.
Yes.
Practically, I think of my own experience, I could never have done that. I think of how many male clients I speak to who would say the same thing to me. They come into my office, they say, I've been married 10 years, I've been married 20 years. And lots of people tell me this marriage has been dead for years. And one of the questions they'll say is, can I start dating now? They're ready to go.
They're kind of excited to get back out there and see what's new because they've been with one person for so many years. But by doing that, you may become a serial dater and you're not really being proactive with your heart. You're kind of just wasting time out there. You really need to heal yourself first and make a logical decision if you are ready to start dating.
And have you had a lot of people come to you and you say to them, I don't think you're ready for this yet?
Yes, I'm also a certified life skills coach. So I've helped with some life skills exercises, implementing a good home environment, doing things to make them feel better, increasing their confidence, I actually give my clients homework to do, which can enhance their confidence and get them back into dating. But a lot of times people come to me and they're sad, they're angry, they're having feelings of resentment. And until you're willing to forgive your ex and realize that the relationship is over and you've come to terms with that, you really can't give your heart to someone new.
So your typical client or customer is the type of person who's looking for a serious relationship, and you're trying to direct people down that path and not be a serial dater.
Yes, and a lot of the clients that have come to me have already done the online dating, so they've gotten that out of their system, and now they've come to me kind of for that last resort to say, look, Shannon, I want to find a partner. I'm ready for partnership and to share my life with someone. I'm tired of online dating and I want to get serious.
Okay, so what you're really saying is it sounds like there's more of a general consensus that online dating doesn't really work.
It can work for some people. I think it's good practice to get back out there. But as far as long-term committed relationships, the percentage is low.
Okay. So I'm wondering, what are most people worried about when they're dating?
They just interacting with a woman, or being in a social setting and not knowing what to say to a woman or how to approach her. That's a big fear, not knowing where to find other singles. These new divorcees are lost. They're like, where do I start? Where do I go? All my friends are married, and I don't want to go to bars. I don't want to do these things. How I haven't dated in 10 years. Like, help me. I don't know where to start. So I think that's the biggest fear, is just not knowing that there's resources out there to help them. And this is why I do what I do, because I want to be a resource center for singles who want to get back out there and are happy. And I want to get them excited about dating again and not fear it, right?
Okay, because you're talking about getting back out there. I always remember my first date after I split up with my ex, and I felt it was like I had to pinch myself, and I felt like I was back in high school now.
Mm-hmm.
As I was driving to pick her up. So I guess in a sense, that's what you're talking about, is it's been a while for somebody. For me, it was about 17, 18 years I hadn't been on a date.
Even simple date conversation, people get nervous, what to discuss. Do I let them know I have kids? What do I share? Am I sharing too much? So you really have to I do like a mock date prep as well, where we're actually on a date and I'm able to coach you that way, so that when you get on the date, you're prepared. Some different topics to discuss. You've familiarized yourself with the environment of the date environment. So all of those things help the date flow easier.
And do you help people in terms of how to dress, where to take people on dates and things of that nature as well?
Yes, I do all that. So if I feel that someone needs some image consulting, I'll direct them to an image consultant. I've told men to, fix their eyebrows, clip their nose hairs, whatever it may be. We've done those things.
I always remember I was away with some family law lawyers at a convention in California, and 3 or 4 of us went to the beach one day and didn't go to the conference, and 3 of us had all recently split up with their spouses. And I was there, and the one lady says to me, she looks at the other guy and she goes, "I can't believe no one told him he needs to wax his back."
Exactly. Your friends and your family aren't going to tell you the things that you need tweaking. So that's where I come in as your coach. I don't do it in a harsh way. I'm not here to hurt your feelings, but I am here to give you constructive feedback. And I want you to look your best and perform your best on the date. That's my goal. And that should be your goal as well.
What's the most common concern that people have about dating after divorce?
I would say being hurt again, or putting their heart out there and not back, or not finding somebody that's serious about commitment, going on dates and feeling like they're wasting their time. So this is why, working with a matchmaker, that both parties are in it for the same end result. They both want partnership. But if you're dating kind of outside of that and you're online dating, you really don't know what people's expectations are. So that's a bit of a fear.
Now, I'm going to put on my hat as a family law lawyer, because the advice I give to people when it comes to dating sometimes is very different than you may give. And I'll give you an example. When people come in, I can tell when people are done with the marriage, even if it's a recent separation, because they've checked out years ago. I would assume that type of person may be in a much better place to start dating earlier. But I have to let them know that from a legal perspective, it's perfectly fine. But then the second issue I have is, you probably don't want your ex knowing you're dating until you have a deal, if you can help it, if they're angry about the breakdown of the marriage.
Exactly. So, you want to keep that more private. You shouldn't be online dating, having your photo everywhere if you're still, if you're legally separated and the divorce. I want to keep your dating lifestyle private.
Well, and I even tell people, you got to think about where you're taking your dates. If you happen to live in a certain part of the city with your former spouses in the same neighborhood, be smart.
Exactly.
Don't date someone in the same neighborhood.
Yes.
I've also told many clients, you may have a credit card that your spouse can see what's going on online, and you can see what's going on online. Even if the other credit cards may be disclosed, don't go and spend a lot of money on a date that your former spouse may be able to see where you went to that restaurant that night. Because
yeah, I believe all those things need to be taken care of before you start going on dates and before you start spending money on credit cards and all of that stuff.
well, one of the problems from a family law perspective is sometimes cases take 2-3 years to resolve. So people may be ready to date, but they're worried about the financial obligations that are there, and they don't want the other side hearing about it. So there's things of that nature. And,
exactly. Yeah.
And then there's also, I always think about it as how, you talk about serial daters. Serial daters relates to when you should be introducing children to the new partner, because that becomes an issue in terms of how long have you dated the person? When are they ready to be introduced to the children? I don't know if you give advice to your clients on that as well.
Yeah, I think every situation is different and unique. I think you need to, I think anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Once you're in the relationship, that's a good time to kind of meet the kids, meet the children, at least be dating for at least 3 to 6 months. Again, everyone works at different speeds. If you feel that this is going to be a long-term relationship and you guys have had the discussion to meet the kids, I think you just have to be prepared for that and everything should go nicely. And also maybe letting your ex know too, if your ex is close in your life, that I am dating somebody new and I want to introduce them to the kids. So that the kids aren't running home saying, "Hey mom, I met Sarah and she's daddy's new girlfriend." That way your ex-spouse is also ready for that conversation.
Well, that certainly makes sense. I see we also received a question, and it's a legal question, and it's based on, we have an order that our 17-year-old son has access with his dad whenever he wants. And his dad is saying that if he refuses to see him, he won't pay support. Can he do this? Well, I'm going to start with, since the child is 17 years old, support must be paid. It's not up to the parent to say the child's not showing up, I'm not going to pay. Now, when the child becomes 18 years old and therefore is considered a adult, but may still be in school on a full-time basis and may otherwise be entitled to child support, usually the payor will still have to pay child support. However, there are some cases, and this becomes very difficult, you have to get into what was the fault behind the breakdown in the relationship between parent and child. And if the fault can be laid at the blame of the child or the support recipient, the court has the discretion to reduce or eliminate child support. However, I'd want to note, those cases are hardly ever successful, are exceedingly rare, and very, very difficult to win. So for the person that asked that question, if they're the one receiving support, I certainly would rather be in their shoes than the other side's shoes. But you should be encouraging, if you're the parent where the 17-year-old is living, you should be encouraging them to spend time with the other parent. It's in the best interest of children to have a good, positive relationship with both parents. It's not helping a child if they only have a relationship with one parent. So please keep that in mind for the person who asked that question. Children do better when they have both parents. I'm going to shift back to what the topic of the show was now, since I've answered that question. We were talking about introduction to children, which can be a very important issue in a lot of divorces, of the right timing of it. Have you ever found yourself, in terms of the advice you've given somebody, or any issues from your involvement where a family law lawyer has reached out to you with questions or concerns?
No, I haven't had any of those questions yet. No, not at this time.
That's probably a good thing, because you'd probably find it to be fairly stressful when a lawyer starts asking questions, because in some of our cases, we really get into what people may be doing in dating, because we have questions. For example, someone says they make $20,000 a year, and if you're acting for the other spouse who wants support, you're trying to show ways that they actually make more money.
Yes.
One way they might be doing that is to say, well, if you're making $20,000 a year, you're not going to go hire a dating coach,
or a matchmaker. Yeah, exactly.
Or a matchmaker. You're not going to be doing any of those things. So have you had people concerned about how they pay you, Will their former spouse find out? Any of those kind of things?
No, not really, because matchmaking is very confidential. And again, they haven't joined my matchmaking service. Like normally they've been divorced for at least, 1 to 3 years. So all of that's kind of behind them. And the matchmaking is very confidential. So there's never been a situation like that as of yet.
Okay. Now, I see we have a question. I think it's on Facebook Live, and this is more for you, Shannon. I don't have a lot.
Oh, this is good. From Lucy. Okay.
Yes. I don't have a lot of friends that are single and am worried about going to events alone. Tips.
Perfect. Well, one of my services is called the Wing Woman service, and that's where I actually take out divorcees or singles and kind of take them out in the city and help them get engaged in social situations. I see how they interact with the opposite sex. I give them tips on how to dress, how to act, the initial approach. So a lot of singles really utilize this Wing Woman service. It's great for women in their 40s, 50s. I've done it with singles as young as 27 all the way up to early 50s. So just so you know, there are services out there where you don't have to go out alone. Again, it's the Wing Woman service, which might be a really good fit for you so that you don't have to walk into the room by yourself.
Okay, and how do people find you for that then?
Oh, it's on my website under shanieinthecity.com under the Wing Woman service. And it's about a 3-hour session, and we meet for a pre-consult and discuss what our plan is together.
Okay, and where do you usually take people on a night like that?
Well, it all depends on the age demographic, what they want to achieve, what their interests are. A lot of times it could be a happy hour social event, or it could be something later where we're going dancing, where you want to be a little more interactive with singles as well. So it all depends, but a lot of times in the downtown core.
Okay, and is that where you usually are, is the downtown core?
Yes, I'm downtown.
So you're not servicing the suburbs where my clientele are in Markham?
No, I am. I work downtown, but I'm now branching out to the GTA, and I'm also working with Ottawa singles as well.
Okay, and how much involvement have you had in terms of, you said you're a life coach. Have you had people coming to you as a life coach right after the divorce, asking for help to get over the divorce and how to move forward?
Yes, I've had some dating coaching sessions that have turned into life coaching sessions, or people that are having trouble self-disclosing or not knowing how to communicate effectively in a relationship. So that's why I really wanted to branch into the life skills section, because I feel in order to be in a fulfilling relationship, you have to master these life skills such as active listening, effective communication, self-disclosing. Being able to tell a man how you feel is very important. And a lot of women that come to me have, some of them may have this wall up where they're feeling, I just don't know how to tell a guy how I feel, so I teach people how to use feeling words.
Okay, what is
and also like how to avoid conflict. So rather than arguing, and, I do a little bit of couples therapy as well. So rather than saying, you never do this, you don't take the garbage out, you're this, and that, try to use feeling words like, when you don't come home after work, or when I don't hear from you, it makes me feel sad. So when you're using a feeling word, your partner can relate to you and say, you know what, I'm sorry you felt that way. And it's, instead of it being an argument, it becomes a discussion.
Okay, and what does self-disclosure mean? I noticed you used that word a few times.
Yeah, well, I find self-disclosing is very important. It's, sharing your inner pain, sharing your feelings with somebody, just being able to like talk in that moment and not bottle things up. So that's where I come into the feeling words, using feeling words and just I statements. I feel this when this happens.
This question came in on Twitter. Do you take on clients from all over the country, and do you do Skype calls?
Yes, I do Skype coaching as well. Yep, we can book Skype coaching online. I don't have any international clients as of yet, but that's something I'm kind of thinking of down the road. A lot of my Toronto-based clients do want Toronto matches, so that's why I'm kind of targeted in this area.
It's funny you say Toronto-based clients want Toronto matches. it's funny because I remember when I was younger.
Well, they love their life here. They don't want to move, right? So,
well, as a family law lawyer, I see all the problems that happens in divorce when people are from different parts of the world or different parts of the country. So when I see two people get together where one was from Vancouver and one's from Toronto and someone moved to Toronto, all I think about, and this sounds terribly cynical, is when they split up, I'm envisioning the fight about mobility, that somebody wants to take the kids back to Vancouver and you're going to have a very significant legal fight. So maybe I'm a little jaded in the way I look at things, but that is the way I look at things. Now I'm going to I'm going to take a step back and ask you, picture somebody is divorced. They've now been, or not even divorced, but they've been separated a year. The divorce is moving forward. They come to you, they say they've done all the online dating and they've been to different things, and now they're tired of being a serial dater. They want something serious. How does that whole process start with you from the time they either reach out to you by email or phone?
So let's just say this was a dating coaching session, right? So they've come to me for help. How can I meet people on my own rather than maybe working with a matchmaker? So I would teach them things as switching up the routine. So going in different directions, going to the gym at different times, exposing the pool of men. So having more fish in the sea, putting yourself in situations where you're going to meet more singles, not having a coffee at home, having it at Starbucks where you're going to bump into people organically. Also figure out what your dating platform is. So what's going to work best for you? Is it online dating? Is it matchmaking? Is it going to speed dating events? Do your homework and research what's the best fit for you. Then you want to focus on your personal brand. So a lot of people don't even think about this. They're like, there's a brand, I have to brand myself as a single.
I did think of that when you said that.
And I'm like, of course you do, because think of all the competition out there. There's a lot of beautiful single men and women who have a lot to offer, but you need to stand out against all the competition. So think about what can you offer to a relationship and why would somebody want to date you? And it's a good confidence exercise as well.
See, I think of every woman I dated before I met my current partner was always trying to pick my brains for free legal advice for their divorce. So there was always this jostling of making sure I'm not answering their questions versus them trying to get free information.
It's true.
I see we have a question that came in. Do you take on clients going through divorce? Or this is actually for me. If so, can a matchmaker be forced to testify by the spouse's lawyer? I would say it is very clear that there's no confidentiality that could prevent a matchmaker being forced to give evidence. But you also have to be practical in that if I'm taking a case and I'm going to trial, I have to call witnesses that are going to be relevant to the litigation. And for a matchmaker to have evidence that's relevant to the litigation, I think is a stretch. The only way it may be helpful is if a matchmaker had a client, I think, that was causing lots of problems with women that they dated. And this matchmaker was aware of all the problems from their firsthand experience. And somebody was trying to say, my former spouse is a real safety risk. And
yes.
The matchmaker may be helpful at saying, well, I did try to help them and they were full of anger and they had all these awful and horrible things and things they wanted to do to their ex. And I found out about it after I set them up with two clients who had horrible experiences, something along that basis. But I can tell you in my 23 years, even though matchmakers are more
hasn't
popular
happened
now
yet.
than 23 years ago, it's a really, really remote possibility. So I wouldn't be caught up in what you're saying to a matchmaker and being worried. I think the place where you may be worried about what you say to the matchmaker is, or even in your online profile, is if you say how much money you make. I remember when I was on some of the dating sites, they'd ask you what your income range was. Well, you know that if your former spouse sees you and you put your income at the highest level because you want to impress the ladies, and you're saying to your ex-spouse, I only make $20,000, somebody may pull up that profile. And I've seen people pull up the profiles and pull up the Facebook pages and show all the wonderful things people are doing. The other place I could see trying to have somebody like you as a witness would be as the image consultant, because if I knew that somebody's former spouse hired you as an image consultant, as an example, and you took them out shopping.
And they spent a bunch of money,
and they
exactly.
took out a wad of $5,000 cash at Harry Rosen and was busy spending the cash. Well, now I may have evidence of the $5,000 and I'm going to look at the bank statements and say, where I don't see those withdrawals coming out. Where'd you get the $5,000 cash? So that's a place I could see it. But the other practical problem is, how am I going to find out they ever hired the image consultant? Or how am I going to find out they hired the matchmaker? And if they did it by cash, I'm not going to find out. Even if I ask them under oath, did you ever hire an image consultant? They're probably going to lie to me and say no, especially if they paid it all by cash. So it's a real stretch. I see there's a question for you, Shannon, on Facebook. What do you think of long distance relationships in general?
Well, I think long distance relationships do take work. I think, if you're both, working a lot and those are your schedules and you're able to adapt your lifestyle on the weekends and see each other and visit from time to time, it can work. It's just all about really communicating to your partner. I'm in this for the long haul, and let's trust each other and always make time to see each other at least bi-weekly. Long distance dating is tough, but I mean, I've heard of some people who have found partners in Chicago, New York, different cities, and it's worked, and they've, moved to New York to be with their partner. So it can work, but it's a bit of a challenge, and it does take trust, patience, and communication. And I think even now with Skype, if you can't see your partner due to being long distance, get on Skype, FaceTime, so that you're really like physically there and able to connect that way.
As I said earlier in the show, as a family law lawyer, I'm never a fan of it because I think of what happens when the relationship breaks down and there's kids involved. But nonetheless, I can say my brother, for the first 3 years of his marriage, him and his wife, he was here in Toronto and she was at Princeton University for 3 years, and they've had a terrific marriage.
See,
first 3 years, it was a long distance relationship in that sense.
I think if you really love each other, if two people really love each other, they'll make any situation work. So, if you're feeling that things are fizzling out, now that it's, gotten past the 3 or 6 months and like he's just not as receptive, you're not seeing each other as much, then that can be a good sign that perhaps you need to have a conversation and maybe you need to assess the relationship.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think that's all a very sensible approach to take with long distance relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a breakdown that you help more men or more women, or is it basically about even?
Well, with the personal dating coaching, a lot of men come to me, a lot of millennials as well. I think due to, technology and everyone being online and Tinder and all these swiping apps, these millennials don't know how to connect organically, and they're struggling when it comes to engaging women just naturally, not knowing what to say to them. So they come to me, they're like, I need help with the initial approach. Women so much don't need a lot of coaching. They're more interested in the matchmaking. So matchmakers always have, a little more women on our roster. I have about 60% women and 40% men. I'm lucky that I do attract amazing single guys into my database as well. But we're always looking for more.
Sounds like it's good to be a man on your database for matchmaking on the numbers.
You know what? I have some amazing women that are professionals, beautiful, fit, they work hard. And a lot of divorcees as well are looking for the same thing. So needing a divorcee that also has kids. That way they can understand how that all works.
Okay, now I see we have a Facebook question. My new husband is paying spousal support to his ex. He is telling me he wants to stop. Can he do this, and will I be on the hook? Well, that's a question I get asked all the time. Can he stop? Well, it depends on the circumstances. You start with what the agreement or court order says, and depending on what's in there may lead to whether or not he can stop. The longer the marriage, the longer you're typically going to pay. If your former spouse was a stay-at-home parent and you were a working parent and it was a long-term marriage, you're going to be paying. So it really is a fact-specific question. The question of, will you have to pay? Well, wasn't your spouse, you don't have to pay, but there's also the reality that the more money that comes into your household collectively, if you're with that person, the better. And now there's less money collectively for the two of you to live on. So where you can't be called upon to pay, there is less for your household as a result of that. I see that we're now winding down. It's almost 1:30. I think I've learned a lot about matchmaking, and I appreciate that because it's something certainly I have clients come in, as I said, who say, I'm ready to go. I want to get going right away. And I'll be candid. I never thought of a matchmaker when I was single, but it's certainly something that when I see people and they're mentioning to me they're single, that I would keep in mind. And I wanted to thank you very much for being on the show today. It was enlightening and I learned something new.
Thank you. My pleasure. I'm glad that I was able to provide some great tips to you and also the singles watching.
And the next Ask Andrew show is on June 15th at 1 p.m. If someone has a request for a certain topic, feel free to email us at info@feldsteinfamilylaw.com or message us here on Facebook. And thank you for watching and have a great day.
Bye.